speaking of that,
It really wouldn't take that
Good evening,
long.
if we can call our meeting to order.
Let's get it in.
And if I could please have a motion to move to executive session for the purposes of discussing the employment history of particular persons.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could please have a motion to approve our minutes from, let's start with the reorg meeting on 7/6.
So moved. Second?
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? If I could have a motion to, sorry, Julie.
Yeah, I abstain.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
If I could please have a motion to approve the minutes from our special meeting 7/12.
So moved. Second?
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to the President's comments, I do not have any remarks.
Special meeting retreat.
Correct.
We got three minutes.
And that would have been the 7/6, right? What I just skipped?
7/12.
Yes, 7:12.
No, she did the
I did
12.
7/12.
You didn't do the regular
Oh.
meeting from the
I knew we
6th.
missed one.
Perfect.
Yes, if I could please have a motion to approve the minutes of our,
July 6th. You did the reorg meeting on July 6th, but not the regular meeting. Two separate meetings.
what he said. If I could please have a motion to approve the reorg, nope, we did that one.
Yep.
The regular
There you
meeting
go.
on 7/6.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? What was 7/12? What was 7/12?
Remember we had
That was the
one.
one personnel that
For
we did that at the
registrar.
retreat.
Oh, the retreat was 7/12. I'm
Yep.
caught up. I was there, honest. Okay, so I do not have any remarks to share or correspondence, and we have no updates to tonight's agenda. Comments from you, Superintendent?
Yes, I just have a couple. I was reminded this morning that 4 weeks from now, from today, we will have students coming back to our fine establishment. So we're excited about that. Between now and then, obviously, there's a lot to do. We still have some folks that we need to hire. We still have some buildings that we need to get ready to go. But as I was saying before some of you came in, we always pull it together and are ready for our kids on opening day. So we're looking forward to that. We do have, and I'd like to invite you, I know it's somewhat short notice, but we're going to have a summer staff picnic on Thursday at 11 o'clock down at Butts Field for our crews working over the summer, anybody that's working. Michael is the grill master with hot dogs and hamburgers, and people bring a dish to pass, and it's a really good time. It gives us an opportunity to thank all those people that have worked so hard to make all of this possible for our kids and our staff when they come back. So if you're able to come on Thursday, we'd love to have you. And then we roll right into our new staff orientation on the 30th and 31st of August. So things are going to happen fast and furious now. So we're excited. This place is too quiet in summertime, and we look forward to the
It's
return.
actually busier this summer than.
It's a lot busier,
A lot
yeah.
of programming going on.
Yeah,
this
a lot of
summer.
home rec programming, but we have, our summer programming was more robust this
Yep.
year with summer enrichment, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Thank you, Superintendent. And if I'm following along correctly, that brings us to our board presentation for this evening. We have a capital project update.
We do, and we have 3 fine gentlemen here with us tonight, 2 from Hunt Architects and 1 from LaChase. Laird Updike is a familiar face to us, a Homer resident and a former employee of Homer, works for LaChase, our construction managers now. He's here with Jeff Robbins and Josh Pizzaio from Hunt. And as we've been sharing with you all along, we've been beginning the planning after the successful passage of the project back in December. And we've asked these fine guys to be here tonight, give you an update on where we are with the timeline and our plan. So Jeff, if you're gonna kick us off.
Yeah, kick us off. guess I think we just do it over here.
In the middle.
Yeah, might as well. Might as well get in the hot seat. So, there's been a lot going on, you know, these last, 8 months really of design work. And we've worked with different committee members and team folks from your staff that have been great. Everybody, you never know what you're gonna get into in some of those meetings, and your staff has done an awesome job. They really have. Given a lot of valuable input and working along the way. So we've gone through what we call 2 different phases of our design. We did schematic design, and it was estimated and looked at. Then we dug right into what we call design development, which really goes a deeper dive. We do a few more details. There's more information for the Chase to take the set and do a real thorough detailed estimate. And that happened early in the summer, and we had some reconciliation to do. There was, as everybody knows, what's going on in the industry and really in every part of our economy, things are kind of crazy right now. So we have, a lot of what we're going to talk about is how we're responding to that, okay? We are still on track now. We've kicked in what we call our construction document phase, and that's getting the full set of documents ready for the SCD submission and their ultimate approval. We expect the SCD submission here to happen in September, okay? And we're on target to do that. And then our goal is to go with an expedited review with them. We're gonna go through a third-party channel and try to expedite that review so we can get the bid as early as possible in the winter. So we're likely to, our goal is to bid it, starting January, February, and then from there. So, this is a rundown of what the referendum included. Okay, you can kind of see, this is a slide you've seen before, but it's the budget we had per building. Okay, and then we had the ESSER funding, or ARP, from the federal funding that was added to it that got us to the $26 million referendum number, okay, including that federal funding. Now that's where we're starting, right here, $26 million. The design development estimate came in at $39 million, significant. That's like a huge difference to try to make up in this scope. So that brought on a lot of challenges on how we could make a feasible project go forward and recommend to you. So we put a lot of work into that, the Chase and the district and Hunt together to come up with some options and kind of a path forward. And what we call value engineering, this is really things within the scope and the estimate that we could maybe modify the scope a little bit or maybe completely delete the scope. And we're going to run through what that looks like so that we can get to a viable project. Then we also came back, if you do the math here, this gets us just about to budget, not quite, is we want to actually get under budget with our alternates. So that but then have some alternates that if our bids come in good, you could award and make sure that we're not, stuck there on bid days, cutting all this scope of work and, wishing we had more that we could award. So we try to find that balance of making sure we have a project that you can award and to go forward with, but also have some items that if the bids came in good that you could add back in. Okay, so that's finding that balance there. So as we go in, these are some of the things of the value engineering, quote, value engineering items, okay? And the very first one was really roofing. There's a lot of roofing work in this referendum. So Josh had a third-party company come in and we evaluated the roofs in detail, did some cores, got right down in there and see what we had and what the conditions are. There's quite a bit of the roofing that's in good shape. And even though it's outside of its warranty, it's about to expire in its warranty, it still has plenty of life in it. That we felt as a team, it could make it to your next project. Okay? And you'll see, quote, areas of the roof that we're recommending we remove from the scope of work. There's also areas where we could do what we call a roof over. where we leave the roof that's there, it's in good enough shape, we take out any wet insulation spots that there might be, but it's not a large area of the roof. It's small spotty areas. Replace that, and we put a new roof membrane over top of it. Kind of similar to your home, your code allows you to have 2 roofs on a building, and this would still meet the code, and you can see it, we can still get your 20-year warranty at a fraction of the cost. Now, one of the other reasons I want to point out that we really went after the roofing is that's one of those things that right now, we don't believe you're getting good value for. The roofing costs have just skyrocketed. And I would say they've gone up 100%. You hear percentage of increase of inflation, 6, 8, 10%. Roofing has gone 100%. We're budgeting $18 to $20 a square foot. It's upwards about $38 to $40 a square foot right now. So this is one of those things, if you can get more life out of your existing roof, it's a good choice. And we highly recommend that we do this. And I believe as a team, we've done that due diligence to help give you that recommendation. So that's a twofold. Some of the roofs are going to get deleted, and some are going to get this roof over system. And there's some areas that are full depth. They're just so far gone, we're keeping it in the scope, and it's just going to go. I don't mean to spend a lot of time on roofing, but it was a big piece of what we had to do to get here. Okay.
So one piece to add to the roof top.
Yep.
So through that investigation, we did scanning, which points out anywhere there's water damage on the roof, and areas that are even outside of where we pulled out from. If there's an area that has damage, we're still going to have them cut that out and replace it and repair it, so that way it's not something that you're dealing with through that 5-year period, 10-year period as we make it to the next project.
Yeah.
So in the scanning process, you can see where the actual infiltration is versus where the wet spot exists, right? Because you have and have a wet.
It does tie together
Okay.
because that wetness comes right to the membrane. So what doesn't necessarily tie together is where the stain is in the tile, where the leak is in the roof. But the insulation is usually wet right underneath the roof.
So that wet area holds the heat from the sun like today, and then as the sun goes down, they go out with thermal cameras, and basically, if it glows, then it has moisture under the membrane.
And then there's some, associated reduction to mechanical electrical work if we're not doing the roof, because we don't have to disconnect and reconnect all that equipment that's up there. The other thing there is the asphalt work, and this is another one we took a hard look at because, again, any petroleum-based type product, the costs are just out of sight right now. So we really looked hard at where we could save money on the asphalt and where some areas could get a little bit more life or maybe modify our replacement. Instead of going full depth, maybe we're doing a mill and overlay, or we're just not doing an area. And we'll get into that detail. So specifically at the high school, at the site work, the north lot, we're switching from a full replacement to mill and overlay on the paving. We're completely recommending removing the student lot, down below there, that has life in it, that we could just seal it and crack repair and keep that, get more time out of that. Remove additional parking spaces from the bus loop that's being proposed out front. We're going to expand that bus loop so that the buses can park diagonally, okay? And we also had new parking spaces going in that grass area out front. We're recommending getting rid of the parking spaces to save some money. And then the roof work specifically, it's area C scope and area B scope. Now, it doesn't mean a whole lot to everybody, but it is sections of the building that are in good shape. Then here's a big one, is removing some bathroom renovation work. So there's 12 bathrooms that would be removed and wouldn't get renovated. The food and cooking services, we had some equipment replacements, and that could be achieved another way. Some of that equipment doesn't get state aid anyway, and this is another element that has gone up in price pretty good, and there's some food service funds. I think Mike's working on another funding source for some of that equipment replacement. Now we go over the junior high school, the intermediate junior high school. There's kind of a key thing with the site work is the parent drop-off switching from full depth to mill and repave. The back parking lot switching to mill and repave, that's out back by the auditorium and the softball field. Removal of relocation of the playground. And the idea is that we would make sure the playground that's there is safe and replace any parts of that equipment that need to be replaced. Okay, and be fully evaluated. And some reduction of sidewalk work. Now, after we go through what's removed, Josh is gonna walk you through everything that's still in. Okay, so we'll get through that too. Roof work, removing areas B, D, and E. Architectural work, you got the, again, the food service, cooking equipment. Corner locker replacement, this is one of those things that, it's a nicety, but they're still functional, they can still kind of, do what needs to be done there. Gym folding partition is changed to a curtain instead of the partition. They don't get used a whole lot, so we looked at that. That was another major increase in cost, actually, is doing that folding partition. The basketball backboard replacement, and then again, this is one of those things we thought we could do with some other funding, and possibly a capital outlay project, something like that, where we can do this work a little bit later, but still get it done. Reduction of the athletic locker room scope, so the intermediate locker room isn't really being used, it's being used for storage. The plan is to remove all the lockers from that space, and it creates quite a nice room. We were gonna expand that and do more finishes and more renovations in there. We're basically going back to the original and just remove the lockers, and then the district has at least a clean space to start from and work with. The library scope, again, that was another funding source. That's it. All the work that was in the emergency project was still in this project because we weren't sure how that was all going to shake out. We made sure and made a clean cut between that. So any work that's being done in the emergency project is with that funding, and it's taken out of this project. It's still going to be completely renovated. Elementary school, remove of the roof area B, some bathroom renovations, 6 rooms. This is the big one. Mechanical work is not doing the steam system replacement. So that seems like a really simple line item, but there was a ton of scope associated with that. Because to do that, we're going and touching every single room in some fashion. With ceiling work and chases and piping and equipment, there was just a lot of work to convert that system. And the reality is, as much as we'd like to see that steam system gone for energy savings and things like that, the boilers were replaced, in a previous project before we came in, I think in 2000 time frame, around there.
Yeah,
so the system isn't that old. It's about that 20-year age. It can make it another 5 years to the next project and not be really a big deal.
Where does that go on the priority list? Isn't that a high priority on the 5-year evaluation?
It was, yeah. It was, but it was largely because of energy efficiency, not necessarily because the system was going to fail.
Well, we've addressed some of that in energy performance.
Yeah. The burden.
Oh, right. Did you say that about the energy performance contract? That one of the things we realized too is in your energy performance contract, they did some upgrades to the boilers too, just right now. So you bought some time with those. Yeah.
And we're not looking, it wasn't on the priority list because of an anticipated fail or the potential of fail.
Right.
It was efficient.
Exactly. Yep. And the reality is the reason, like even an energy performance contract didn't replace them completely, because the payback isn't that great. You get some savings, but the payback takes a lot of years to get paid back. So it makes a lot of sense to wait till your existing system is really fully aged out. So it's not a bad thing to wait a few more years on that. So again, that's why we put that on the list. So then there was that alternate list. There was scope that we were going to make into an alternate that is still being designed. This is all the stuff that's going to be designed. The value engineering list that we just went through, we're not putting in the documents, it's not going to SED. These items are being put in the documents and are going to SED for your building permit, if funds allow. So perimeter fencing at the elementary school, that was an original scope item that, you know, there's a fence there, it doesn't look great, it's not in great condition, but it still functions. If the money allows, it would be a good time to get that cleaned up while we're doing the parking lot work and the playground work there. Intermediate junior high school theatrical work, and there was a meeting here today that Josh was chairing to kind of really look at that scope and find a way to possibly stage some of this in. But essentially, it's a big ticket item to do that theatrical work that can be staged in as funds allow. So we're going to do some of that as an alternate. And that alternate, I think, I mean, I want to speak for you, but we probably will have multiple alternates for that, right?
Yeah, it doesn't mean that, when we list out alternate, it doesn't mean that it's a whole ticket item necessarily. It could be, like theatrical could be lighting and sound as two different alternates. Again, having the flexibility at the evening of the last day is beneficial to the entire district.
Yeah. So then the high school south rear lot by the cafeteria, right down in here, is, it needs to be done. If funds allow, that would be the next priority. So we wanted to make sure that we had that approval to do that if we had the money. And then the replacement of the second bus lift. We did one, was that under emergency projects, Mike? Or was it just one of the other capital?
No, that's one of the other capital projects. That was one of the things that we knew we could get aidable. So when we talked about doing this building, we moved that and did the lift.
Yeah, okay. So that's there as, it's about the same age as the one that was already replaced. So we anticipate that is something that could cause you problems going forward. So we want to make sure we got approval for that.
Michael, do you think there's any chance on the perimeter fencing that could go under safety security?
It could.
Another way to attack it.
Yeah, I mean, you could look, well, we can't do it outside, though, it's gonna say capital or $100,000 project, but we can't do that outdoors, can we? Would have to
You
be.
need some building work. You
Some
need
building.
$10,000 in the building.
So, I mean, that would be something that, when we do the alternates, definitely for the health and safety piece of it. You know, so, but, you know, pulling out separately into what we have to do and
So there's so much pressure around hardening schools, an elementary school fencing system seems like something we might be able to smith around.
Yeah, the only thing is, well, we got to, it's a good idea, but it's not failing, it's old, and I don't know if that would be, you know, splitting hairs, you know what I mean? But it's certainly worth looking into.
the only thing, and I don't know, is that our fence, or is that, are parts of that, I guess, the resident fences as well? Because I think something we need to look a little more into, because I know pieces of that have been replaced.
So then here's the scope that's in. Josh is going to walk us through this.
Jeff took the difficult part, this is,
I'm all positive. So at the high school, asphalt improvements to the south and north parking lots, continuing with the sidewalk improvements and replacements. So basically failing sidewalks or blacktop sidewalks. The bus loop expansion, so as Jeff pointed out, we had angled parking for the buses, so that way we could try to reduce the length of your bus pickup. So we still maintained the angled parking. The part that didn't make it was the additional parking for pedestrian cars. And the redesign of the parent drop-off and parking. So there'll still be some line work. We're still looking at doing, right now your blacktop kind of blends right into the roadway. So we have a sidewalk, but like an actual sidewalk with curbing going across that in lanes to try to help control that a little bit. On the architectural scope, so there's still a lot of concrete, masonry, terrazzo repair kind of throughout the district, on the outside and inside. There's still roof replacement, general updating of ADA compliance, handrails, those kind of things, reconstruction, damaged exterior canopies. So that's your two end canopies of this building. The main entrance, repairing the spalling, the concrete that's failing, and putting a coating that will help hold up to salt and different wear and tear. The bus garage enhancements and the press rocks replacement. And centering it on 50 intermediate, junior high, for the site work, so you have your asphalt improvements, north, south, east, west, parking lot. So there's general improvements across the board. Would be an easier way to word that. And again, as Jeff pointed out, it's just the approach that we took to doing them. Your main lot, as you come into the building, will get a redesign, reworking the curbing, kind of help control, again, getting rid of that concept that you can just drive in any direction you want and you're fine. You know, there'll be some guidance put in there with sidewalks and curbing. Sidewalk improvements, again, that's going around the building where it transitions from concrete sidewalk to blacktop sidewalks, so getting all of the concrete sidewalk. General athletics, field enhancement, improvement and replacement of the existing playground. So we're no longer doing the new playground, but what we're going to do is at the old one, anything that is damaged. So if the unit has enough damage to it, it's a replacement of the entire unit or replacement of parts and pieces of the playground.
So what we essentially did there is we kept a budget to protect, you know, like if it was, forget the numbers, but say it was $400,000 worth of playground, we kept $150,000 worth of playground improvements kind of thing.
One thing that was still in there in an alternate mindset is wood chips versus the turf playground surface area. So the wood chips being, you know, the most cost-effective system, but a lot of maintenance involved. Turf being more low maintenance and hold up a little bit better as a increased cost. So we'll still ride with both and then make that decision as an alternate. Proposed architectural scope at the intermediate junior high. Same statement that we had here, so concrete, masonry, terrazzo, repair throughout the building, or around the building. We're still doing the full renovations of all the multi-use toilet rooms. And we have a slide at the end for that. So that's new finishes, new fixtures throughout. We still have roof replacement, updating to the ADA compliance. The spaces are still getting the full renovation, so your nurses suite, both libraries, if you combine it with the emergency project. Both gymnasiums will be addressed, home and careers, and will also be addressed. Your exterior windows and wall panels, so all your failing solid panels. So that entire window opening, so the 3 bays will become 3 window panes instead of glass solid. And then the wall panels are those precast elements at the ground level that have had a lot of patching over the years, and then also ones that are starting to fail again. For the MEP and technology, so your boiler replacements, technology lab upgrades, wood shop dust collector, new fire alarm system, and GFCI receptacles in science labs that are next to faucets in wet areas. At the elementary for the site work, this one is still that full renovation of the parking lot, so expansion of the parking lot over the existing playground. The replacement of the perimeter fence is still listed here, but as we discussed as an alternate. There's still interior fencing that was added. So there's going to be a fence that separates the parking lot from the green space. So all that fence work is still part of what we call base bid. It was just the perimeter that was the alternate. Extending concrete sidewalks, access doors, expanding that pre-K playground, and then the new elementary playground. The architectural work, same thing again, the general repair to the outsides of concrete masonry, and then some terrazzo repair. Roof replacement, ADA compliance. Bottom right image, there's the window and brick replacement, similar to what we did about 8 years ago, I believe, on the other side of this image. So it's replacing the structural element across the window, and then replacing the brick and then the window. We're also, there's some water damage on the inside that's happened from this issue, so it's getting that back to a good starting point for that vacuum member. And then below grade waterproofing. I didn't have a good image for this one, so I grabbed one, but basically the entire fire alarm system is getting an upgrade throughout the building. I wanted to include the capital outlay for the 22-23, so this year's capital outlay. As we've kind of discussed in previous meetings, what we want to do is use the capital outlays. We understand we're having to move stuff out, but what we can do is during the next couple of years of construction, you're going to have 3-4 capital outlays that'll kind of land in it. And what we can do with the capital outlays and what we're doing this year is some of those pieces that we pulled out, we'll run them through the capital outlay where it makes sense. To the staff and to the district, you're still accomplishing the work that, is explained. It's just the approach and how we're getting through it. So for this one, it was the gymnasiums in the intermediate junior high, redoing the surface, the flooring. So the wood flooring stays, but it's a new sanded, stained, relined work. And then also replacing the backstops. And this will be work that'll happen before next June, and then as we keep working through, we'll work with the district on how we want to address some of those other areas that fit into that kind of budget structure. So the next couple slides are kind of where we're at with the design process. So these 3 bathroom finishes.
Actually, I'm gonna pause you for a minute. Is there any, so we're going into some design things of what we're going for. Is there anything about this reconciliation process that we went through and, we had some district input on, but we haven't really heard from the board? Is there anything there that you heard tonight that, you're not comfortable with, or you'd like to consider anything differently than what we're looking at?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said you were gonna take out the gym doors and replace it with a curtain.
Yeah.
Do the gym teachers, they're okay with that?
By
Or is it a waste of money?
Is there a problem with the door that's there?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't function well, and,
I'm just
You know what I mean?
curious
'Cause-
if they think a curtain is worth it.
right.
That's
And I
my
know we
thought.
had that kind of conversation, if we got to that detail level?
Yeah, we did, and Todd's here too, because he was part of that conversation. They, correct me if I'm wrong, but how the conversation went was that curtain, one of the things, they don't close it that often anymore, and so that wasn't that big of an issue. The one concern that they have with curtains is the potential noise between the two, but they have it at the we have it at the high school, and once people have it, they seem to be content with it. But it's the concept of changing from what we already have to something that they have never had is really the question that's up in the air.
Now, is that gonna hang from the ceiling, like the one in the gym?
Yeah.
So the volleyball is gonna be bouncing off the curtain even more, because those gyms are small.
Yeah, no, I know, it's inevitable that there's going to be problems with whatever you do, right? So, but, yeah, we'll have to deal with those issues as they come. Todd, would you add anything to the conversation?
Yeah, the curtain will be up, will be almost flush with the bleachers. So it's not gonna interfere with the volleyball. And a good example of when we did the home rec basketball camp this week, or last week, we had 150 kids in the gym at the same time, pre-K through 3 on one side, and then, 3 through 6 on the other. And if you stood on both sides, the noise reduction was just amazing. Like, you wouldn't realize that there was, 75, 5, 6, 7-year-olds on one side. And the curtain, it doesn't move, it's pretty, I mean, if you were to
Oh,
throw a
okay.
ball at it, you know, it doesn't really move, it's pretty heavy. But it doesn't get in the way of, any type of activity that we do in there or sport. I think it's a safer option, and it's also easier too, to take that curtain up and down, than doing the wall, but, it definitely does a good job.
I had a similar experience, we've replaced our gymnasium door with the curtain, it is definitely safer, but I also had to say, you know, with my population, what would the distraction be? Now they can see, and I have not noticed increase, actually it's less, because they have some ability to understand what's happening on that other side, and it gives them some level of comfort, and they actually can perform like it's their individual space. I had the same kind of concerns. We have a curtain, Todd's right, it's easier. If you have to change your activity, you can get that curtain in place a lot faster than the door frame because of all the safety and compliance issues around the door.
You have to have two people operating.
I have another question. What was the quote for the intermediate playground? What was the projected cost of the playground that was cut?
I don't, you have an idea?
I can look at that.
The big part of it was I know to relocate, there's a lot of infrastructure work that needed to be done, right?
So
Like
the underground
drainage.
part?
What's that?
That's the underground part?
Yeah, with the drainage and the new sidewalks all the way around and all of that kind of activity. And, you know,
So it's not necessarily the playground, it's the add-on, how it morphs into a bigger
yeah,
project?
it's by relocating.
Yeah, because we were gonna have the loop there, right, where the
Right.
drop off was gonna be. Yeah, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it was,
The whole reconfiguration.
it was a big
playground
number.
thing in the parents' parking lot, design changing was like 1.3.
That's what I was thinking, 1.2 was, I was thinking. It was a big number, which was quite shocking, quite honestly.
So the playground was in that, the playground itself was at like 4 to 5
It's
months.
4, the playground are 4.
Yeah,
$400,000?
for the playground.
For the playground stuff.
That's it, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So, I mean, I just wanted to also say that we really tried to focus on the things that were program related and student and faculty interface. You know, so like, you know, some of those things like going after the roofing and the pavement and stuff, it's not as much of an interface or program related as keeping the library renovations and keeping some of those classroom things that we wanted to try to focus on. So that was kind of the overending goal.
Right, and the other part too, just was that our focus was, the majority of the project, we had said to the community was gonna be at the intermediate junior high. And that's where the bulk of the work we tried to concentrate. That's why when we had to decide what bathrooms were gonna get done and what weren't, we kept the full bathroom renovation plan at the intermediate in place, as opposed to doing 2 here and 2 in some of the other buildings.
Is it possible to get, just a breakdown of how much each of these, items that we're removing are valued at?
Yeah, I mean, we have the data, we just have to organize it in a fashion that we can make sense of it. But yeah, we went through that exercise as a team in order to, you know, try to
Right.
balance the budget.
Sure. And just a quick question. So is that the curtain, is that like a vertically moving curtain or a horizontally moving curtain? Horizontal. Yeah, I had to think about it too.
It drops from the ceiling.
It's going from the ceiling down to the.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say it that way, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because, and what that does is it has a weight to it, so it keeps it in place better, and it's a little bit thicker than the ones that slide are really lightweight, yeah.
It's kind of like a rolling window shade.
Yep, I just want to make sure I understand when you said.
Is it
drop
between the
down.
rafters or under the rafters?
So it'll hang from the same steel beam that your folding partition would be hanging from. So it's utilizing that extra steel that's in there for the structure.
Can you imagine in between the 2 sides of the gyms over there, intermediate, junior high, you've got the wooden structure that comes down and then the door moves and folds underneath that wooden.
So that upper,
Is it a proscenium in the auditorium? It's a proscenium, but I don't know.
that upper wood wall, is that coming out? Is it the curtain will go
Well,
all the
there's
way up.
steel behind that wood for most of it to support the weight of the door.
Yeah.
So that will likely have to stay. It's probably integral into the structure itself.
It's gonna have to mount to the bottom of the steel
Okay.
for support.
So it's gonna be lower than that, but.
Well, we can look at that and get you that information, because the wall has a track and some things there too. So I'm not sure it's gonna be that different, but we can get actual dimensions on that.
I can look. So we did a similar activity in a neighboring district, Dryden, where we got rid of their folding partition and with a curtain system and utilized, the existing stay, where the door goes, pockets in, the oversized doors, that kind of closes that. That's a choice of the district. They want, a lot of districts will just keep it and then they can utilize it how they want. It's not a lot of space, but it's space. But if you get into like demoing it all out, it becomes its own project in itself. But I can look at it, maybe I'll take a picture, to see when it's fully rolled up, where it sits in comparison to where that soft is.
Yeah, and I guess thinking along the lines of the concern about
The
volleyball.
height, yeah.
Basketball,
Okay, yeah.
because I know the problems we have in this gym, which has a very high ceiling, and it still gets hit continuously. So if you go over there and it's a lower ceiling to begin with, then you're dropping it even more, because you're gonna need more properties.
And we can look at that.
Yeah.
So, and here's like an SED. Whatever you send to SED, they then have an expectation that that's the project you're going to do. So like you pulled bathrooms out. There's no benefit in leaving those bathrooms in and saying, hey, that would be great if we could get to them. You have to send SED for the actually.
Within reason, I mean, we don't wanna, you saw the difference there. You don't wanna design $10 million worth of work that you can't afford to build, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense to put all that effort into that design of a cost you can't build. So we wanna be efficient about that, but we are designing, I think $1 million more than what you're budgeted for right now. So that we're kind of allowing for some extra if the funds are there. We're trying to find that balanced sweet spot,
It's also about the time it takes for them to do that design, because we want to hit it's imperative that we hit the schedule of getting to SED in the September timeframe, because we know right now it's taking between 3 to 5 months at SED for projects that have been submitted in the last year, and we know we want to get out to bid in the January, February timeframe to award, and then be able to order materials to get here during that first summer. And it's already, it's already tight looking at it that way. So if we, ask for $1 more million, $2 more million, that takes design time from them and possibly extends the schedule that allows us to get to SED in time to get the project rolling next summer. But we'll have an opportunity because as the documents get to CD or construction document phase, which is what gets sent to SED, Chase will do another detailed quantity estimate at that time, and we'll have another chance to reevaluate. Not that they want to design and send amendments to SED, but there's an opportunity that maybe we do roofing or other items that aren't as difficult to add design for, to add value to the project.
I have another just question, and I'm sorry, but a lot of these items that you brought up about just postponing, it was because we felt like it could last another 5 years or whatever till the next capital building project. And so I will bring up that I guess I'm kind of curious as to why the press box still made the cut when we're talking about eliminating, or not eliminating, but like reducing the work on a playground or something that seemingly to me would benefit a much wider population and definitely generate some concern as far as safety with the parking lot and just the logistics of how that would all go. How does the cost of the press box still make its way in here?
Yeah, I can take a shot at that one, because I was one of the folks in the meeting said that's something that needed to stay. What we tried to do, as I mentioned earlier, the intermediate, junior high, primary focus of the project. And then what we wanted to do is look at each of the other sites and identify those things that we really sold hard and that people were a visible thing that people would see and appreciate. The press box being one here at the high school. One of the other benefits of that press box area that we've been talking about is to try to turn that into a teaching space, an opportunity for kids to get broadcasting experience, put class here at the high school that would give kids the opportunity to use that as a classroom space. So while it may seem that it's athletics driven only, it is, it's the majority, but it does have an educational component to it too. So put all those things together, and that was the reason that I certainly was one of those that said, just like at the elementary school, I couldn't imagine us, after going out to the community, not doing the enlarged parking lot and moving the playground. So that was just the mindset behind that.
It also looks like it's gonna fall over.
Well, it's ready to go. I mean, it is ready to go. And we tried to get it abandoned, or not abandoned, but condemned not too long ago. And we came close, but weren't able to do it. And it's not safe. I mean, it's not safe in its current form, long term.
It would need some work put into it to even keep it. And at that point, are you putting work at something that can? And that's the other thing I wanted to mention is the other things that made a priority list are things that are failing and need to be fixed and make sure you keep your buildings in good working order. Those are the kind of the priority measures we look at. All right, so some of the layouts and the work that we're working on here, and Josh is hitting me, so keep going there.
Yeah, so it looks better on the little TVs, but basically coming into this, we had three kind of layouts again. Originally it was 3 buildings, so it was kind of a layout per building. What we'll be reviewing with the district is how they we wanted to show them all 3. So basically it's a similar color palette, similar tile, it's just how we assemble the pattern. But again, new fixtures, new divide, trough style sink, and just generally cleaning up the space. Right now it's a mixture of tiles from generation and repair. Same with the floor finishes. So the next couple slides, we'll review the home and careers, nurses suite, intermediate library, and junior library. So home and careers, the idea here, the current building, or current room, there's a dividing wall on the left, right side of the image that kind of divides the space. And currently the sewing is kind of tucked into a smaller room that's part of the room. So what we're doing is removing the wall. The right side of the room, we kind of focus on that sewing side of home and careers, but also be the general teaching space. So that end wall is a teaching wall. And on the left side of the room will be your food stations, so cooking. The tables that you see with the dash lines within them are flexible tables, so they can move and connect together. So the idea is in the middle of the room, if they wanted to have a kind of a group lesson for the cooking, everybody could kind of gather around that space. And then the teacher station is centralized between the 2 work zones.
Tom, do they teach cooking and sewing at the same time? Or
You mean same time in a given day?
yeah,
No.
okay, so they do one or the other.
Usually there's the focus. They might have some students doing some, they don't all work at the same rate,
Yeah.
but
Okay. Because when I took it to school, we had a cooking class and a sewing class that were going on at the same time. It was just 2 different classes. You guys do it as one.
So the nurses suite, staying within the footprint of the existing nurses suite, but a redesign of the space, providing 2 exam rooms, a general office, a receptionist desk, and then space with 4 beds. It also gives them storage and their secured lockable areas.
So that eliminates the pass-through to the intermediate office, am I correct in understanding that? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that we designed one of those exam rooms that, having just journeyed through this joy of COVID, could be an isolation room if there's a student that, say, heaven forbid we ever do another pandemic like that, that we could have that space that's a student midday presents symptoms, we can isolate them.
Yeah. Gives you a lot of flexibility here with that, yeah.
And then one activity that happens on a, I don't say daily basis, but when they provide eye exams. So that's why the one exam room on the right is a linear fashion, and that was designed so that way the student could do that eye exam and not be doing it out into the general population, but the general public.
And over the course of time, the number of students requiring medications has just skyrocketed, and so there's a dedicated space for that too, whereas now it's really not a good space now. This is a great layout, and the nurses have a lot of input to determine what they would like in the spaces.
On the right-hand side here, is this the other, we have 2 nurses, and there's only 1 office listed, so is this the other desk over here on the right for the second nurse?
So
The chair, is that what that is?
So it provides flexible space between, so the exam rooms were used, I can't remember, it was, there's a person that comes in to do additional examinations a couple times a year. So there's other times where the rooms are designed so that way they can be flexible as office space, or, so it's kind of a circulation rotation between the reception desk and then the office space.
But the junior high nurse and the intermediate nurse are both gonna share one office? Is that how
No.
this?
Well, they could if they chose to, but
Okay.
most likely they'll use one of those desks in one of the exam rooms, because those exam rooms aren't obviously always used all at the same time.
Okay, understood.
And the room that's labeled office in that first exam room, they both have windows out into the common area. So the idea is that those would be the priority office spaces, and then if one needed to double as an exam room, it could.
I understand, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, now I see that there's 3 desks.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, the idea is just to provide flexibility. So the intermediate library, this is the one that is kind of a mixture between the project and the emergency project. So part of it, if you look at it, the final product, it's opening up the walls. So currently your maker space is through a door through the library, so that wall goes away. It becomes part of the space. And then the back storage rooms, the working room that's labeled is one of the existing rooms. The other 2 rooms that go across that corridor at the top, those open up and it becomes a workspace for the librarian, but it's not separated out from the library. So it, again, provides that flexibility and different use. And then seating that's movable and adjustable, because it's still going to be a space where the faculty meet. That dashed line on the right is currently where the existing projector drops down. So because that was already built into the soffit, we're going to keep it utilizing that same space. And what will happen is, obviously when the projector's down, you won't be going behind it to use the books. So that'll be up and open and closing that little portion. Some of the issues that we had with moisture were being addressed in the emergency projects, so putting a vapor retardant material down before the flooring goes down, adding air conditioning to the space to help control the humidity. Those are things that are being addressed in the emergency project. And then the finishes within that main room is what's being addressed in the emergency project. And as we get into the project, that's when we'll blend it in together as this final kind of product. And then your junior high library, the footprint doesn't really change. kind of the layout of how we use the space. Kind of keeping on the south end of the image as the guided main entrance will still be kind of controlled, like directed to be in that way. So your flexible seating will be in there. If you get towards the back right, those are kind of breakout stations. Again, everything is movable, so it's not like those angled walls are like a hard fixture. It's something that in a group presentation where you need the whole space, you can move those to the side. But those are writable surfaces where small groups of students can work on a project together. And then the idea of using the book casing as nook spaces, but still maintaining good visibility. The singular lines of book casing, so in between those two workspaces, group workspaces, is a low height, so that way you're again maintaining that visibility across the space. Same with the wall that divides the multiple seating from the back workspaces. As we move forward the librarian space, so it'll be a new kiosk, so it'll be a redesign of their current one. The dash line, the soffit above will still stay as a soffit above because the mechanical systems that's in there doesn't allow for much movement. And we weren't replacing that ductwork mechanical system. The computer classroom recently got new furniture, so there wasn't furniture in there. And it was basically just adding some additional tall cabinetry storage. They wanted a magnetic whiteboard, and then also a green screen wall. Both libraries have a green screen wall piece to it. And then we were replacing the wall between the office on the south end of the image and the librarian's workspace. It was an existing wall that got built at some point, but it didn't go all the way up and through, so it's just replacing that for sound purposes.
Was that our last slide?
Yeah.
I know that was a long stretch there, but it was kind of important. There's a lot going on, and our next step is to submit to SED this design package that we talked about today. So,
Nice. I have one more question. I was just thinking back to the stuff for the intermediate gymnasium, and you had mentioned that those locker rooms aren't really utilized. Am I correct, right?
Intermediate side, yes,
Intermediate,
correct. Yep.
I know that gymnasium is really small and congested. Was there any conversation about maybe using some of that space to expand the space in the gymnasium, or that's not feasible?
Yeah, that's pretty intensive. To increase the size of the gym with the roof heights and all of that is really intensive. Yeah.
One of the things though, Em, that we did talk about that we'll still have the ability to do locally is we're gonna take all the lockers out of there. What we were gonna turn it into was an APE space, adaptive phys ed space, and even a wrestling area that we could use for those types of purposes. It'd be a one large room. We're still gonna be looking to do something like that down the road because we're always crushed for space in this, in that complex. But that won't be something that we'll do the finishes during this project. We'll do it locally.
So the goal is to get a flat floor in there.
That's it.
And that does have some second floor space above parts of it. So you don't have the high ceiling available, but it does have some of it that is, and it can be made wide open for some of that adaptive PE and different things.
So even when your special education population, somebody needs a break, that there's yoga or there's some activity space, it doesn't necessarily interrupt the PE class.
Correct.
Right.
And with this ancillary space that could help a child group.
So other questions for these folks? Thank you, guys. We'll work on that information, Emily, that you had requested. And again, our goal is to deliver a high quality product for our community. We'll continue to keep you updated as we continue to work through the process. And at any time, if you have questions about what the status is, please just ask and we can get the answers for you. Okay? Thank you, guys.
All right,
We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
that brings us to new business. If I could please have a motion to approve the warrants and claims auditor report.
So move.
Questions or comments? Get it? Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So move. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We have an investment summary, budget status report. If I could please have a motion to accept the report from the Committee on Special Education?
So move.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the disposal of items?
So move.
Did you get that one too?
Regular committee on special ed, right?
There's two.
Should be school and then the regular. We did the preschool.
A motion to approve the bottom line, a motion to accept the reports of Committee of Preschool Special Education.
No, you already did that
No,
one,
I
right?
did regular. Yeah, if I didn't see it, it's on the
I
very
know, it's
teeny
a-
tiny bottom of
I
my
guess
page.
just flip my motion.
So move.
Thank you. Questions or comments on the reports for preschool special education? All those in favor? Opposed? No, stop it.
Chris just wanted to stand up longer because he was short.
I just wanted to show you, I'm very short.
All right, if I could please have a motion to approve the disposal of items. Questions or comments regarding those disposals?
Where did they go? Like the overhead projectors? It doesn't say they're broken, but where did they go?
Projector.
Josh?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The overhead projectors, it doesn't say they're broken. I'm just curious, where did they go?
We recycle them. It's not that they're broken, it's that they're at the end of their useful life. So while they aren't broken this instant, they're failing.
I got you.
Yeah, so they're a lot of work to keep running. That's, anything that is on that list, usually I put reason, end of life, and that's basically what it means. It's cost prohibitive.
We take them to some type of special
We have
recycling
recycling
system?
systems that
Okay,
take care of it, yeah.
understood. Okay, great, thank you.
Additional questions or comments?
Just thank you for the lacrosse equipment to the rec department. Prior to this year, the Homer rec lacrosse was shared with Cortland, and it's going to give the ability for the rec department to start doing their own program with Homer, so that's going to be very good.
Additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the comprehensive school safety plan.
So move.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I appreciated the one upside down page.
Just to make sure that you're.
Just like, oh, okay.
Mickey Mouse.
Just to make sure you're right.
That's right.
An old board down straight.
We have to have fun when we can get it. Yeah.
Additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the True Green contract.
So move.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Will we still have swings also? We use them both?
Sweeney's Pest Service?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We use them both?
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. It says in here that there's, it says lawn and pest. That's why I asked.
Well, but that's on the grass areas. It's True
Yeah,
Green.
Sweeney's we use.
Sweeney's you still do with interior.
Okay,
We
gotcha.
use
Thank
Sweeney's.
you.
Last time I helped with in the press box, I would use Sweeney's.
Yeah.
The hornets in there.
You mean the rolled up paper in there
Oh.
didn't work?
So I think that what we're noticing is we've seen True Green before, that's been more of a fertilizer.
Yeah, it was a fertilization as opposed to weed control. We're adding in the weed control portion.
Yes.
It's hurt once, yeah.
Additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? A motion to approve the VSIP and the SIP.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the tax warrant resolution.
So moved.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve.
Just real quick,
Oh,
I'll put it
sorry.
up in the past. No, that's okay.
Go ahead, tell them what
Just
you're
everyone
passing.
needs to sign the tax warrant and put that you voted yes or no.
Okay.
You can keep it all.
Okay, thank you. If I could please have a motion to approve the tax certiorari reserve resolution?
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
I had asked Mike just to give a brief explanation of what that resolution was, so Mike, you wanna?
So with the tax certiorari's, every year, businesses and homeowners have the ability to go and contest their assessments. So usually, and probably in a broader scope, it's a lot of the businesses, especially businesses out on 281 as you head towards Cortlandville. To give you, I received a notice, a legal notice today, that a business who had been assessed at $281,000 was challenging their assessment, and they felt their assessment should be $31,000. So in that case, what I have to do then is look at their tax on true and calculate what that difference is. So in the tax certiorari reserve, we hold a reserve, so if business X challenges this, and they have 5 years for it to go through, I have to hold in a reserve that 5 years of a payment that we may have to make to them for taxes they've already paid. So we keep a running list every year. There are some big changes, some small changes. If you look back at the tax warrant, you may see that one of the biggest changes in the last few years is equalization rates. What that means is that they're trying to equalize the property value from one town to the next. And you may see that an equalization rate will drop. If the rate drops, it actually means that municipality is going to pay more in their taxes. So when we go through and we vote on tax levy limit, and I'm always very careful to say, on average, if you take everyone, taxes may go up X if we change that. Well, when we figure out the formulas, and especially with the equalization rates, is that you may have one municipality whose taxes, they actually are going to pay less this year than they did last year. And in a circumstance, there's a municipality now, tax on true, they're paying $2 more per thousand than they did last year. So my reason for bringing that up is next year we may see people that live in that municipality challenge even more their tax bills or their assessments, which we have no control over. So we have no control over the assessment. We have no control over the equalization rate. This is stuff that comes either directly from the counties or from the state. But it's good to know that we keep this tax certiorari reserve in the event that if they ever came back and said, okay, you have to pay out this amount. For example, Burger King, I think, was on that for like 15 years. So I inherited it, but every year the Carroll Company would contest. And they are drastic, they're not contesting by a little bit, they're contesting by a great deal. So that's why by law we have to keep the reserve. Essentially what we're doing in the resolution is we're saying, okay, we're going to return this money back to the general fund, and in the same motion, you are going to take the money out of the general fund and return it back to the reserve for the following year. But it's, again, you're going to see more and more of this, especially if the equalization rates keep changing in a drastic way. So, okay.
A motion to approve the athletic trainer bid resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Was there a significant difference in the services to warrant the going with the higher one versus the lower one?
That's what we are going to take this year to figure out.
Okay.
that's what we agreed that we were going to approve the successful bid for this year. And then we're going to discuss with other districts that may have opted on with the other, because what we don't want to do, right, is compromise the quality of service. It almost seems too good to be true.
Right.
So we'll use this year to evaluate.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the capital project purchasing resolutions?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
It's a funny name. Piggyback purchasing, that's a funny name. That's all.
It is fun.
So a big piece of that, though, in this resolution, the tips that they were talking about, the roofing right now, we're already talking, because once you agree to this, we will have the ability to start talking to the roofing contractors and starting to set up what, potential bids this far out, which is good. And the piggybacking again allows us, we used it on the turf project, it saved a great deal of money doing it that way. So the more that we can do that, we don't have to wait till next May to go to bid on certain items.
Additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We're at community voices. I don't know if there are any community voices within these or. Next, we're looking for a motion to approve personnel with the addition of the superintendent addendum.
I'll be second.
We have a second, and I think we actually have a, PC has a request under personnel.
Yeah, I vote yes on everything but the, remove myself from the kindergarten to fifth grade chair.
And Tom, I want to clarify, what we are approving is on that element, on the grade level chairs, is actually
K through 4.
K through 4.
K through 4. Or K through 5, but
Right.
Casey's abstaining.
Casey's abstaining. He's going to abstain on that whole group.
Yes.
So, for the record, we have motion to approve personnel with the superintendent addendum. Casey, we need to also alter what's on our packet is pre-K through 5 grade level chair. We're approving K through 5 grade level chair, and Casey has asked to abstain from that portion of personnel.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
I love that Amy Potter and Doug Creever are both willing to come back. I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, and there's another
Is there another
retiree as well. It's always
Those
good
two
to see.
I know, and I think
Yep.
that's just awesome.
Yeah, we are blessed with that. We have a lot of folks that want to help us out even after their career is finished.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Are we at informational items?
We are.
Informational items, Superintendent.
Yes, I've got a couple for you. The first, I had included in your packet an explanation of our various district and board committees. And I included in that the 21-22 members. What I'd ask you to do is take a look at that between now and our August 30th meeting. If you have any questions about what the group actually does after reading the description, please feel free to reach out to me, because what I'd like to do is at the next meeting ask for volunteers to serve on those various committees. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. And then the other thing I included is the board meeting and presentation schedule. We had previously given you the board meeting schedule, and then when we had one of our administrative planning meetings over the summer, we had some great conversation about the quality of our presentations and some very good discussion about when we ask you to come out to the various buildings. And so what I'm recommending that we do, if you had that copy in front of you, is we go to each of the buildings. And because we don't meet in the high school anymore, we thought adding in a high school visit would be good. But then we want to move those to the beginning of the school year so that you get in all the buildings earlier. One of the things that the administrators also want to do, and I think it's a great idea, is to better familiarize you with some aspect of their building. So what we're proposing is a tour, brief tour, either prior to or at the end of a meeting, where the building administrator would lead you to areas of the building that they wanted to make sure that you know about, and try to incorporate kids and adults into those visits so that you actually get to see, if we're talking about, as an example, a Promethean board or something like that, the kids would actually be, they would actually be interacting with it. So hopefully there's an educational piece to that. Give some thought to, and we don't have to put it actually in practice until our October 11th meeting, because that's the high school visit. But what we want to do is get a feel if you want to do it prior to the board meeting or after. So we'll have more conversation about that. But I'm excited about adding that in. I think it'll make it a lot easier for you to be informed if you can actually visualize those things that we're talking to you about. So the other thing I wanted to note is that what we tried to do when we put the presentations together was not have duplicate presentations on the same night, to be respectful of your time. Although if you look in the beginning in the budget portion of our school year presentations, we have about 5 consecutive weeks where we're doing budget updates for you. What I'd ask you to do is, if there are any items that you would like to have us present on that we haven't presented for you here in our draft, let us know, and that would be a perfect time for us to add those in, because our budget presentations, for the most part, are fairly brief. But we want to be conscious of your time and respectful of that, but we want to give you what you want to hear from us about as well. So, again, I show that to you as well.
So I have heard from board members feeling like it would be a great opportunity to be able to tour buildings and various elements of grounds and maintenance. I think if we're having student presentations around some element, that's probably early on or beginning of the meeting, and then these building tours, so we don't keep kids out later when they need to
Sure.
that we would do that. But I think I've been approached by several board members that
Yeah.
we can get a tour of buildings and
Yeah.
yeah. So we're all thinking the same thing.
Yes, we are.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Has there ever been during the school year, because that has been brought to my attention, of a local agribusiness that has offered up their facility to, if we ever wanted to have a board meeting? Have you ever done anything like that outside of school?
No, it's an excellent idea, though. I mean, what a great way to get out into the community. We would, if we want to entertain that, we certainly can. One of the things that we'll need to obviously do, though, is make sure that we publicize it enough ahead of time so that people know that we've changed the venue. But no, I think that's
to be like for through the winter. Trinity Valley Dairy, they have a nice area where they mentioned if we ever wanted to use it.
I mean, I certainly think that's a wonderful idea. Why don't we plan on talking more about it at our next meeting? I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Isn't there, what's the new class that's being, heavy equipment, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We done here too, so that, I don't know, I think that would be a neat thing to explore
For you to
as
see.
well, just to see
One of our
how that's
BOCES
developing.
programs here on campus.
And
Yeah.
one of the things too that I would just say that because of COVID, I didn't take advantage of, but if you as a board member talk to staff and faculty, they're more than happy to have you come in during the day when they have kids there to see them. You can do that as a board member.
Okay.
And so you just, again, make sure you don't just show up. But work with the staff member, and maybe, every time I've talked to them, they've said, absolutely, we'd love to have you come. Here's a really good time to come. So you don't interrupt their class, but.
Yeah, just one of the things I would ask is just run it through the building principal, just so they know who's on their campus. But yeah, no, that's a great idea. You get to see kids in action during the school day as opposed to maybe a more artificial thing at another time.
Similar to that learning to walk stuff, right?
Yes.
Well, and I think we're becoming more of a community that they would love to have you come see that, right? As they
Yeah.
become more comfortable sharing those opportunities amongst themselves, to have other people come see that too. I think that we're becoming much more of that.
Can we get a tour of BOCES, of what we offer with our BOCES program?
Absolutely. If you want to do that, why don't you just get a hold of me and we can make that contact for you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they would love to show off.
I think it would be super cool to see what they even offer. I wouldn't even know what ours locally offers currently.
Right.
Maybe one of your budget update meetings where you plug that in, does that be the place where you move to? And
Our site.
You know, and honestly, it's a cool concept because they're always interested in coming out to local school board meetings and talking to us about their budget versus us going there and talking to us about their budget. That's a really interesting concept, yep.
We have a Blue Pride bus. We can all file on
Oh,
it.
that would be super fun.
We can just roll into town and take it over.
Todd with the horn.
I've always wanted to drive that.
Who's tracking?
Okay.
That's bad.
Where am I? I'm at,
We don't
audit
have-
budget,
Yeah, no board.
no board, no district.
Yep. Board member.
Board member activities.
I reached out to all the principals and asked for a tour of their schools, and today, Principal Schneider gave me a tour of her school, so I got to see some of the intricate parts of the junior high that I wouldn't normally see. I thought that was really cool. And, I'm also a volunteer on the intermediate SCA, and I met with Principal Falls, and pretty sure the intermediate's gonna have a wicked awesome year. We got some fun stuff lined up, and we're gonna put out a calendar on the first day, so that all the parents will know what our events are, and hopefully it helps with attendance and the spirit of coming together and that type of thing, so. And I have a son who's been participating in the SAS program. Sounds awesome. So I think that's really cool that we can offer that.
What's that SAS for?
It's this amazing workout that they do at
Oh,
7 in the
that's
morning.
what you're, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm. Yeah, it's 3 days a week. It ends soon. When's it end? It ends soon?
It's for football, for fall sports.
And I know there's been a girl that's come too, so it's not just for boys.
It wasn't mine, don't worry. Don't worry, but definitely was not mine.
Not at 7 in the morning.
Not at all, not a chance, no. But she is participating in, varsity, JV volleyball scrimmage already. Jeremy coordinated, or somebody coordinated, Todd coordinated, somebody coordinated, with 4 schools to have a scrimmage already, which I thought that was pretty great. He did a great volleyball camp, great basketball camp last week, from what I hear.
A lot of kids running around.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
great. Yeah.
And then Tommy was doing the soccer clinics on Tuesday, so just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff.
One of the activities I'll be finishing tomorrow, I'm working on it, just so you have knowledge, our summer school, like the high school summer school, had a really peculiar schedule, where the second semester, to do 12 days of instruction impacts 4 calendar weeks. So they started on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and Monday were off, had the rest of the week, have all this week, all next week, and then have one Monday on the 15th of August. And so I'm gonna be sending a message to the most tragic teacher name out there, Mr. Stalker, who's the administrator over that, to just say, I didn't appreciate the way you thought through that. For 12 weeks of class should not impact 4 calendar weeks in the middle of the summer. So that'll be on copy on the
Yeah, appreciate that.
page.
What was the class?
Economics.
Oh.
Additional activity? Upcoming events, Superintendent.
Yes, I mentioned to you that we have our new staff orientation, our first foray into a 2-day event. We have a very aggressive schedule for them, a lot of learning in those 2 days to get them prepared for the students' arrival on the 6th, which again is 4 weeks from today. Looking forward to it.
All right, if I could please have a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of
Yep.
you want that one?
Yep.
Discussing proposed pending or current litigation.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?